So I'm Michael Statham. I'm an editor of Football at Oranje, which is a Dutch football podcast in the English language. What have I made so far of RZ in the Europa League is your first question here. So I think that they've been a bit mixed bag. So there were a couple of really special wins in there, especially at home in the league phase, but equally a couple of results which are quite poor. So RZ were able to beat Fenerbahce at home in the league phase, and a poor result would have been when they played Ludogorets. So they were 2 up in Bulgaria, but ended up drawing 2-2. That's just a couple of really poor defensive errors. So a bit of a mixed bag, but what you can see is that there's lots of potential and quality in this team, especially when they're playing in Alkmaar. I think recently RZ have gone on a run. I shared a stat on X, Twitter, where they had gone around 20 games where they'd only lost twice, whatever it was. And there were a lot of wins in there where they've played teams at home and they've been so strong. So beating Galatasaray in the last round of Europa League was a very strong result. They beat Ajax at home in the Cup. They're now into the final of the Dutch Cup. And they've just looked full of quality. They've got a lot of young players, RZ, where you've got, for example, Owusu Aduro in goal, who has come through the RZ Academy, and he was part of the RZ team that won the UEFA Youth League. It wasn't just him, though. It was several others too. Walter Huss in defence is another one. Then you've got the experience, though, of Yuri Klassi in midfield. And in attack, you've got Troy Parrott, who, of course, Spurs fans will know and remember. The difference is, though, when RZ played Spurs away in the league phase and lost 1-0, I think this is a team now that aren't on that losing run that they were at the time. Spurs fans might remember that they were on a run of defeats, RZ. Away at Spurs, one of them. They're just quite low on confidence, whereas now they're like more of a force to be reckoned with. So they've got a lot of young players, like I said, who are getting more consistent as they're kind of growing, developing the team. A lot of players are kind of 19, 20, 21 years old, that kind of bracket. And they don't have too many experienced heads. That's why the influence of Yuri Klassi midfield is going to be massive, who is a former Southampton player, of course. People remember him and his time there in England. Just a final reflection on that game in October when RZ lost 1-0. There was a few injuries at the time in the RZ front line. And like I said, they're on that run of defeat. So I think as a whole, they were able to keep it quite a tight game, RZ. But I know it wasn't Spurs' strongest team. So coming into this now, these 2 legs against Tottenham, I think RZ fans are enjoying it as a bit of a treat. You know, it's a big game. It's inside England. And Spurs fans will be no strangers to that feeling when you play against a really strong... that you're up against a team where they want to take you as a scalp. And RZ, it's no different. So I think coming into this, they'll fancy themselves in Alkmaar to try and get a result, knowing that the away leg in Tottenham will be difficult. But I think the atmosphere that RZ faced in Turkey, having won the first leg 4-1 and swept the floor with a side that's top of the Turkish league, and then having actually quite a good result 2-2 away in Turkey shows that they're not just a one-trick pony at home. They can play away from home. They can see a difficult atmosphere, pressure, a difficult team to play against. That RZ could do this. They could get past Spurs over 2 legs. But I think fans generally, they'll see it as a bit of a free hit, and they know that it's a bonus if they can get any further than playing Tottenham. The atmosphere in the Netherlands, I've got to admit, Alkmaar it's a good stadium. It's a nice European stadium. Been there a few times. The atmosphere is good. I think the pre-match show will be something to enjoy the lights, and like they got the slightly dodgy Euro music there in the Netherlands. I think that the atmosphere will be good, but equally it won't be quite as threatening as something like in De Kuip at finals, for example. There's a question here asking about what have I made of Spurs so far this season, particularly in the Europa League. I'm an Aston Villa fan as well as a big Dutch football fan, and I've made Spurs to be kind of that side that they'll score a goal but concede one. And I think that's how this will go again. I know Spurs had their injury problems, but I know that this will be a strong team. They've got players coming back as well. So they are a team that will probably concede a goal or two in both of the games, but they're going to be a threat. They're going to score goals. So what do I expect tactically from RZ, and what do I expect on Thursday? I think that RZ will be setting up in the normal formation, a 4-3-3, very Dutch. A lot of technical players, a lot of use of the wings, low crosses. Troy Parrott is a threat, but can be a little quiet at time in games, but he's got enough players around him that can create some magic. And RZ will like to have lots of the ball as well, trying to do some build-up. And not afraid of that against Tottenham either. So I think quality-wise, what people can expect from RZ, they are a side that if they were put in the Premier League, yes, they wouldn't be in the top half. I think they would be struggling at the bottom, but that makes them sound like a bad side. The Premier League is a very strong league, and RZ could hold their own against a number of Premier League sides. Spurs included are having generally a poor season, where they have quality all over the pitch, defensively and attack. They've got young players that have got a lot of potential, a high bar. And I think if they have their best performance on, they can beat Tottenham. And I just hope people aren't underestimating RZ within that. But I do expect Spurs to see us out over the two legs and go a little further in the competition. My score prediction then, I'm going to go with both teams to score in the first leg. I'm gonna say 1-1, but to be honest, with Tottenham, anything's possible. And then I think in the away leg in London, Spurs may win 3-1. I'm going to say. Thanks, Chris, for having me. If people would like to check out our podcast, we are a Dutch Football Podcast where we talk about the Dutch League and the Dutch national team at great length. But we don't just have a podcast; we have a website too. Everything's in English, like match reports and that kind of thing. We're on Twitter, X, a few other social platforms as well. But yeah, thanks for listening and hope that was helpful, Chris. Bye.